Hello everyone. This is Dr. R. Vijay Saraswati, speaker 3, day 3 of a month on Mahatmas. So I am happy to introduce our speaker, Abdul Hakim, who is a visual communication graduate from St. Joseph's College. He has completed his visual communication this year with first class, and he is one of the most brilliant students of his time. He has participated in research papers last year when he was in college, and he has also helped in the design department of St. Mother Teresa University for the last 2 years, and he has done his internship here, and he has worked on philanthropy, and he is ready to move out of India, and he has offers at Dubai, Malaysia, and Singapore. So these are our youngest son, and I am sure they will contribute as a speaker to speak about their favorite Mahatmas. And I also welcome Dr. Dawson Jasper James, our design department head at St. Mother Teresa University, who is putting up this program for us, as you all know. So I am super excited to be here on day 3. So let us go to the speaker. Hello, Abdul Hakim. How are you feeling today?
Good evening. I'm feeling fine. How are you guys?
I'm doing fine. It is so nice to speak to you, Yangistan. The first day was Nadia Tehreen and second day was Mohammed Sharif. And it is you today, Abdul Hakim. And I'm super glad to be with you all. And it is an excitement for me when we have to talk about Mahatma. So Dr. Dawson Jasper James, how are you feeling with this project?
I'm so delighted. And when young people talk about India's icons and Mahatmas, it really excites me. It's not that they don't know about them, it's about rethinking about the contribution of legends and pioneers of India. And that should be again and again spread across the world.
Exactly, Dr. Dawson Jasper James. In fact, when I went back and listened to the recording of the youngsters, I was feeling so inspired and motivated that they know so much and they want to contribute so much and they are ready for the grind. So I'm super glad and super blessed that we have the young generation in our lives who can contribute so very unconditionally. So let us go to Abdul Hakim and check with him which is the Mahatma he has chosen.
Uh, yeah, so I will be talking about Nelson Mandela today. He is Mahatma I've chosen. So yeah.
Wow, you will be talking about Nelson Mandela. That's so very nice. Um, I always, think about Nelson Mandela as a peacekeeping agent. You know, he is one person like who led by example, who showed the way by being one among his people. So I'm so glad you're going to talk about him, and yeah, I'm feeling super glad about it. And may I know what is the quote you're going to talk about Nelson Mandela, Abdul Hakim?
So yeah, the quote I've chosen by Nelson Mandela is education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world.
Okay.
So that's what he said, and I kind of do agree with him because I do feel education is very necessary to strive in the society currently and to lead a comfortable, sustainable life. Doesn't necessarily mean that education is necessary, but it sure does provide a strong base or a platform for you to prosper and move ahead in life.
Okay. This question for you. You had choice of choosing four Mahatmas. I was actually having a bet that you would have chosen APJ Abdul Kalam because I know APJ Abdul Kalam is your top inspirer throughout your growing years, your formative years. And you had the choice of Mother Teresa and you also had the choice of Mahatma Gandhi. But I would definitely love to know your reason behind choosing Nelson Mandela.
Uh,
Anyway, it is a kind of so very exciting because you see we all live in a flat world. Education is the key. The world belongs to people who are educated because they know the do's and don'ts. They have a medium to occupy their mind, and education is the only way that we can shake the world gently. So what is your say on this, Abdul Latif?
So as you said, one of the reasons why I chose Nelson Mandela is because I didn't want to do APJ Abdul Kalam, because as you said, I have had a very close, I don't know how to put this, a mentor-mentee kind of relationship with APJ Abdul Kalam, developing over time, and like how he's been and how he's served. But then it also kind of gives way to like inhibitive bias, and I didn't want my bias to show. So I would prefer, I did choose Nelson Mandela because it would provide a more neutral base and a better platform for us to talk about him. So as to, I would not be overly biased towards the person I'm talking about.
Okay. So you chose the quote related to education. But
Yeah.
if you really look into this, this matters, as on today in the world, not all of us are privileged to have good education. Thanks to technology, that we are open to anywhere, anytime education now, which is only in the recent past. But if you see, education was not this accessible before. So what is your thought process on this? Now with technology, education can go to every nook and corner. But how are we going to do this? How are we going to, prove a point that more than wealth, education is the key? How are we going to do this? Have you any thoughts on this?
I think the main contribution to education being spread would be the parents' part in educating the youngest people. Like, even though people generally do take um, interest in learning, but in selectively rural areas, they don't get the chance or the privilege to learn by parents. So it is an active effort that has to be put in by the parent and by the student. So as of now, even though everything's moving online and everything seems to be doing well thanks to technology, we also have to consider the fact that not many people are technologically literate. Like, yes, you do get network throughout the country. You do get everything across the country, but there are many villages that even struggle with like basic electricity. So I think reinforcing like common things that are deemed necessities would then help add on to education. Also, even Nelson Mandela went through this. He was the chief's son of his village, and when his dad passed away, when he was around 9 years old, he went to live in with a relative, and that relative thought that education was necessary for a person to be um, a wise person. So he kind of got lucky like that, as to his guardian being someone who believed in education. This wouldn't have been possible if the guardian wouldn't have believed in education. So that is where I would say that education's importance plays an equal part by the parent and the student. So even though everything is online as of now due to the pandemic, and even though things are slowly starting to reopen, there have been many villages where education is not a choice. Like, even if you would want to study, or due to circumstances, due to your family's financial situation, it would make more sense for the child, male or female, to help the family in earning money, as to so they don't uh, die of hunger or die of starvation. So yeah.
Yeah, like you said, we are lucky if we have a educationist at home or somebody who believes in the power of education. So when I was young, I asked my dad, I would love to live a class life. So what is that one thing I should be doing? Because my dad was the only breadwinner, and we were five of us, five children, and I'm the youngest. So my dad told me, see, wealth cannot bring you class, but education can. Education is the only way you can have a class life where knowledge is power, And nobody can, snatch your education from you. People can snatch your wealth, people can snatch your health, people can even snatch your peace of mind. But nobody can, snatch your education. I mean, knowledge. Learning is a continuous process. So he always encouraged us to read, encouraged us to know the general affairs, reasoning abilities, current affairs. He used to encourage us to read papers, newspapers, go on voluntary services, including my mom. My mom is from a village, but still she used to insist on we all speaking in English, moving around people, doing things which will make us a people oriented person. So, like you said, if you have a guardian who's, promoting or who's loving education, they are lucky. So that happened in the case of Nelson Mandela. He had someone who was encouraging him to be educationist right from a formative years, because education helps us to think widely. Knowledge is power. So, what is the one thing or one personality trait which you loved about Nelson Mandela, Abdul Hakim?
One of the main qualities of Nelson Mandela that I really like is his resilience. The man never seemed to give up. Like throughout his life, he faced a lot of opposition. Like another one of his quotes that, if I seemingly remember right, or he talks about democracy and like how it's supposed to play an equal part by everybody of the state. But since his country was being ruled by by the British, his quote goes on to say that it was a majority versus a minority situation, and the minority cannot face against the majority. So yeah, so
Yes, he vouched for democracy, and he was always saying about of the people, by the people, and for the people. Freedom for all and all for freedom. So when he meant freedom, he meant, it was a war against racism. It was a war against, the ruling I would say the ruling government, overpowering the inmates. So he was there, but he did things peacefully. He had made, his prison life is for all of us to see. It is not easy for somebody to have that resilient mindset, working for the cause and, following through the guidelines and worrying about his native people, and also working for the cause of education and, making them more polished and, getting the next generation ready for a transformation. So that way, I always count on Nelson Mandela when it comes to resilience, like you said. And one more power of his, what I like is, he never gave up. It was his years of struggle, which I mean, he didn't become a Mahatma overnight, isn't it? There were loads and loads of scenarios which made him who he is. Because the more you're tested, you realize what you are capable of. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. So I also like one part of Nelson Mandela, which is his smile. Whenever you see him or whichever poster you see, you will see a wide smile on his face. So I always say, nothing great was achieved without a person being enthusiastic. His frequency, his vibration, and love for life itself matters. So, Dr. Dolson James, do you want to ask any question to this, dynamic speaker, Abdul Hakim?
Hi, Abdul, how are you?
good, I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, I just have one observation and then a follow-up question.
Yeah.
I really like your approach towards choosing Nelson Mandela, because we all know and lived with APJ Abdul Kalam. And now we're speaking about Nelson Mandela, and he was also influenced by an Indian, Mahatma Gandhi. That's
Yes.
where he was also taking part in non-violence. And he had his own kind of thing, but however, we Indians have contributed across the globe. So I'm so proud you chose him, and we are still a root to the nation. And my simple question is, when Nelson Mandela had the opportunity to just surrender and just go away, why he didn't do it? Why did he stood for the apartheid, the racist thing, and he stood and stood firm? Why do you think he was so firm?
I think that would probably contribute to his building years, because, as I said, he had a lot of hardships growing up because his dad passed away when he was 9, and then he had to live at a different place and do different things. But education was necessary for him. And then, as he kind of reached his youth, they were attacked by the British, and then most of them were imprisoned, transported to different countries for slave labor. So that would kind of be why he worked. And then also him seeing Mahatma Gandhi as a person of importance to him, from someone who has learned how to combat his issues personally. That would also very importantly make sense, as Gandhi himself was very successful in how he eradicated the rule of the British in India, just by being peaceful. So it was all a non-violent approach, and it makes more sense, as you wouldn't lose human resources, human life. It would be more of a demonstration than of an aggression, and I think that is what Nelson Mandela wanted. Even though his main point of contact was freedom for his people, he wanted freedom for his people with non-violence. He wanted his people to know what freedom was. Engaging in war with them would result in many of his people dying due to a struggle. We obviously know the Britishers wouldn't have given up without like a good fight. This would have caused a lot of loss of life, and then even though they would have attained freedom, the loss would have obviously been too much to them immediately. So they wouldn't be able to enjoy the fruits of freedom if they had nobody to share it with. That's what I'm.
Wonderful. Thank you.
This is such an interesting conversation going on, especially when we have a comparison with the, father of our nation, with Nelson Mandela, because, one thing which is common is when we fight for the rights of people, when we are fighting the evil against good, or we are, fighting for a cause, the cause becomes so big, it becomes bigger than life. The purpose of life becomes, it's more than the life itself. So I'm so glad that when Mahatma Gandhi or Nelson Mandela were working for the cause, they were very clear and crisp with what exactly they wanted. Their way of struggle, their way of putting up a fight or putting up their concepts. Peace being the most important thing in both the cases, non-violence being their way of mantra. And, it is, do you think it will hold relevance in the coming years, Abdul Hakim? That was, I think it's a era gone by. Now, what do you think would be the challenge? I think the world is getting a little disturbed, or the peace is lost. I can tell you small incidents of road mad rush in the road, heated conversations, and patience being lost. Youth is becoming a little restless. That is my feeling. Do you accept or reject this thought process?
Yeah, I do agree that the youth has been getting a little bit restless, but this has always been a generation thing. Like throughout history, we've always had aggressors. We've always had people who rebelled, who've given a fight to get what they want. The youth this time are kind of in a hard situation, I would say, due to us kind of seeing global warming as a new thing, and the economy crashing, the recession, everything. This also kind of puts the youth in a harder spot because it's not things that we have come up with. It's just things that we've been left to face and deal with without knowing how it all started in the first place. I think this does cause a lot of unwanted aggression, but yeah, it's nothing that's not been uncalled for. But yeah, I think over time, as the generation grows, we would do learn how to come to terms with it. And then I'm not just saying that the youth currently is morally superior to the previous generation just because we are left to face with what has happened. I'm just saying that this has always been past our time. Like once we get older and then we have to pass on the world to the next generation, they would have to face a lot of issues that would have been cropped up due to us. So nobody is always angel in that sort, but it's just how life progresses and how you have to deal with and move on. But this also helps a lot if you look at people, look at their struggles, look at how they've achieved stuff, and then you kind of get a basic idea as to how they move ahead, live by their examples, live by their lessons. This would give a lot of space for you not to have to experience it yourself, as someone has already taken the risks, done the research. And yes, so looking back at people, figuring out how they've lived, knowing about them, trying to live with their principles is a lot helpful.
True, true. Yes, I think the generation next is very promising, and we need to, adjust to their thought process. And this pandemic has also, confined them to their four walls, and they have been coping really well because they have shown courtesy to parents by attending classes from home, doing so much of sacrifice of learning lessons with a little help of online, whatever they get and all that. Today's youth is a kind of uh, reflection of indomitable spirit and encouragement. So I think we have this restlessness because maybe they're not able to do what they are aspiring to do. For example, travel has been restricted. Their basic, freedom of moving out and traveling and contributing is restricted. So that might be the reason they are feeling restless. But I'm sure everything will be back, and the new normalcy will be helping each other and doing more and being more, because it is a kind of worthiness that they have created for themselves. And I'm sure each one of from this generation we will find a new Mahatma. So that is what I'm looking at. And is there any message that you want to give before we, close it in a final call, Abdul Hakim? Is there a message for youth you want to live? And again, is there a message you want to give for we adults who are dealing with the new kind of a generation where hugs and handshakes have become, rare, and we all have to be confined to the little homes, and visiting our own kith and kin has also become a kind of restriction. So, what is your message for the youth, and what is your message for us?
I don't have a message per se, but yeah, it is kind of like how life progresses, and it's a circle of life. You just have to adapt to how the situation is and kind of learn. So yeah, everything will be fine, is what I can say.
Okay. So everything will be fine. So what is that one best quote you want to share with the audience before you leave? Because a quote itself is a message, isn't it? So that is why
Yeah.
we get inspired about.
So I think one of Nelson Mandela's quotes that really stands out for me is him saying, "I never lose. I just either win or learn." So he kind of takes his losses in a stride and learns from them, and that's what I think we should all strive towards.
Exactly. You puts up one more step, and he always says, If I win, I have a, I can put it up greatly. And if I lose, I have a guide to say that how I lost, isn't it? So yes, he has always told that I may not win immediately, but I will win definitely. So he has also taken people ignoring him in his stride, and he has always told that what I do is very important. If I stand for a cause, I will stand even if I'm standing alone. So all this are so inspirational. And then for that part of the world when they are literally, sidelined because of their, appearance, is really disheartening. So there was one man who stood by it and said, we should be treating human as human because for the very reason they are human. So being human and being kind and doing good to all of them in the pursuit of excellence and pursuit of humanity is great. So I'm so very thankful and happy that you chose to speak to us, and there was a lot of good discussion which happened, and we got a thorough insight of how the youth of today thinks. So thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us. And is there any other question Dr. Dalton Jasper James would love to ask Abdul Hakim, or we may call it close?
No, I don't have any questions. I think he made a lot of sense. And the final observation is the world will survive. And
Huh.
he is a positive thinker. Our speaker, day 3 speaker, and he has a lot of positivity in him. So the world needs that. And with this wish, and we will survive and thrive.
True.
And that's it from me.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dawson Jasper James. So 3 days we have had three different Mahatmas to discuss. And I'm so glad, like they are all living in the flat world, and we take inspiration and draw inspiration from each of this Mahatma, and we are able to talk about them and take it forward and contribute to this little world in our own way. So, like I say, I always close my talk by saying, sorry, please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. God bless you. This dedication statement for me, from me to Abdul Hakim today. So, thanks for being with us online and sharing your thoughts. We look forward to sharing more insights in the future. Be a part of us, and thanks for all that you do for us. And having a servant leadership mindset, and you have always been a guiding light when we have challenges with technology and more. So thanks for being there, and super thanks to Dr. Dalton Jasper James for finding all your time from Google and other technology things you handle to be here and make this momentum possible. So without you all, the month on Mahatma will not be a success. So my sincere gratitude to both of you. So shall we call it an end? So
You're welcome, doctor. Yes.
end is the new beginning for tomorrow. I will meet you all with a new speaker for day 4. So thanks for now. I let you go and have a good day. Today is the first day for the rest of your lives. Enjoy your lives and have a purpose. So the purpose will make us live a better life. Thank you.
You're welcome.